Hello and welcome to episode 267 of the Paint All the Minis podcast. We put the show together so you have something to listen to while sitting at your hobby desk and painting your miniatures of any scale, genre or game. Our aim is to have a relaxed and genuine conversation with someone who's as involved in the hobby as you are, from any level, top to bottom, because we've all got our own unique and individual stories. So sit at your hobby desk, paint your models, listen to the chat. We really do hope that you enjoy the content. This week I talked to Peter, who is a Paint All the Minis Discord member, fellow nerd, and he has also taken the dive into writing his own rules. I'm not going to spoil any of the chat here, but it was fun talking with him, and I'm sure I speak to all of the Paint All the Minis podcast listeners when we wish him all the very best with his rule sets. In the chat, me and Peter talked about many different things. One of the things we talked about was the idea of sustaining our gaming over a long period of time, aka sustainable gaming. I got no idea why I went in that direction and not just read the note. See a couple of episodes ago where I talked about reading the notes that I write. Anyway, as I come up on my own first decade in gaming, it is a good opportunity to take stock of what I've learned and why I am still in love with the hobby, something that Peter talks heavily about in the show when he reviewed how he hobbies and he changed some things in the background to hobby more sustainably and to hobby in a way that made him happier. Back in episode 100 through 153, we recorded some episodes about how people may hobby more effectively and how people may hobby more sustainably during our lives. And I'm sure that we're going to revisit that idea soon, but it came up in the show, and if you're not too familiar with those shows, episode 150 through 153, then it might be worth having a little bit of a listen, because both Peter and I believe in this concept, and many other people do. It's not something that Paint All the Minis invented or anything like that. We're not laying claim to it, or we're not going to sue anybody if they mention anything to do with sustainable gaming in the future. No. I created a sustainable gaming. Cease and desist. No, it's nothing like that. It's just about squeezing every little ounce of possibility. Yeah, I guess that is the right word. Possibility and also positivity and longevity out of our hobby. So we hope that you enjoy the show. I hope there's something you enjoy listening to, and if you've not listened to the Sustainable Gaming one, you can go back and listen to those. You can don't forget, you can email me if you need to do so, paintalltheminis@gmail.com for whatever reason. You can join our Discord server. There's a link to the Discord server, and I'll tell you why I'm juddering all over the place in the post ramble. Apologies, but this is staying in. You can join our Discord server. There's a link to that Discord server in the description. You can join our Facebook group. You can follow us on Blue Sky or anything else. But that is the end of the mistake-ridden pre-ramble. Let's go.
Paint all the minis. Paint all the minis that you can. And when you paint your minis, listen to that podcast with Dan Adams, that is.
This recording may be all that's left of me. We've been lost in the jungle for 7 weeks now. Parker was taken by cannibals last week. Jenkins the week before by foul water. Poisonous vipers got the rest the week before that. It's just me now, and I don't know if I'll make it. But wait a second. I think I have a bit of a cell phone signal. Wait a second. I have a cell phone signal. That means I'm saved. I can catch up on Paint All the Minis. Look at that. There's a new painting tutorial. And this guy's using Vallejo Orange Brown. This is amazing. Everything. Oh wait, is that the cannibals again?
So hey, I am here with Peter. How's it going, Peter?
I'm good then. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, absolute pleasure, mate. It's good to hear from someone who's kind of from my neck of the woods. So talk to us about where you're from.
So I am a born and bred Scouser, so for those from elsewhere in the world. I'm from Liverpool,
Nice.
the home of the Beatles.
Yeah, home of the Beatles. So would you say that's the biggest thing that ever came out of Liverpool, apart from you, obviously?
Oh, well, obviously it's my meteoric rise after all. Well, that and dare I say it, the other club across the park from us, Liverpool as well.
Right.
I'm an Everton fan, not a Liverpool fan. So yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that. I'm not sure we've had someone from that area that's also a football fan. So you got two main clubs in the city of Liverpool. You got Liverpool and you got Everton. You're an Everton fan. So talk to us about the differences between those two teams, and maybe talk to us about their rivalry.
Well, it's reasonably said that it's quite a friendly rivalry compared to most derbies. Even within my own family, I have Liverpool sports in the family, Everton sports in the family, and the only reason two clubs really exist is because Everton had a dispute with the landlord when Everton played at Anfield, didn't want to play the rent, and built their own stadium. The rest is history.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so is that something that is football like a big feature of your life, or is it something that's only passing?
Passing these days used to be a big feature of my life. I used to travel back when Everton played in European competitions. I did used to travel abroad to watch them, and I had a season ticket at Goodison, but I've not really been to the game for probably going on 8 years now.
Why?
It coincides with my work because I'm not really available. Busy time at work is when the football's on,
Right.
so that's when I need to be available. Yeah.
If it changed in the future, would you go back on, or you think your days are done?
I'd probably go back, no doubt, at some point. One of my kids will take an interest, and that will inevitably take me back down that route. Yeah.
Yeah, I've not watched the Premier League for about 3 years now. It's kind of gone a little bit too far for me in terms of the money that the players earn, and also the different ownership of the clubs and things like that. And VAR was one of the final straws that broke the camel's back, really. I just think a lot of the passion and a lot of the joy and a lot of the spontaneity is leached out of the game, to be honest, by different artificial things that have come in. And football is at its best for me when it's like local teams with local passionate fans, and something that everyone can kind of get behind in the community. But unfortunately, a lot of players, and it's I wouldn't say no to it if I was a soccer player, but the amount of money that they're on, there's no association with the local area. They all don't tend to live in the local area, and the association with the fans is maybe not what it was before. When I was a really big football fan when I was a kid, you'd see the players in the pubs after the game, and you'd see the players in and around town shopping and things. And I just don't really feel like you get that anymore, which is a shame. And it's good in some ways. It seems to be like a better game. The standard of the play and the fitness is higher, no doubt. But I think that football's lost a little bit.
100%.
Do you agree with that or disagree?
I would agree with that, particularly coming back to VAR that you said before. Having to wait 3 or 4 minutes to decide whether you can actually celebrate a goal or not. It does take that spontaneity out of it. It's not the same. You've moved on.
It means a little bit too. I think it means a little bit too much to many people now. Whereas, I appreciate that the referee is a human being, and that's not necessarily him being right or wrong. It's just the referee's decision, and it's their opinion. And I think, but because it's maybe a little bit too lucrative in terms of a business or an industry, is that it means too much people. And I wish we could go back to the days where it was more just like and from the fans' part as well as the players' part, where it's just like it's a game. It's a game. It's a diversion from your regular working week. And the refs might get it right, 100%. The refs might get it wrong, but that's also a talking point. It's like, oh, it was offside. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was offside. I don't know. But anyway, let's talk a little bit more about sport as we go to the World Cup next year. So there's a World Cup, football World Cup, or soccer World Cup, as a lot of people not in England say. And it's in the US. What do you think about England? Is it England's time to win the World Cup, do you think?
It would seem that way. We've definitely got the talent there, but whether we can actually make it all the way is the different thing. We seem to stumble at the final hurdle.
Chokers, mate. Chokers. So I really hope that there's one time in our lifetime that we'll be able to celebrate England winning some sort of trophy, because it's just like the nearly men, right? I think because even Stuart Pearce was a famous England football player, and he was called the nearly man, right? Is the guy that nearly won a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, I don't want to talk. There's a lot of people going, "This is not a hobby podcast. This is a sport podcast. You can't have this." So let's move on to hobby stuff.
Absolutely.
So talk to us about two things. Talk to us about what hobby activities you participate in now, modern day.
Yep.
Also, talk to us, dangle a little bit of a teaser for us about your rules writing and rule sets.
Right. Okay. So these days, mainly due to time constraints, most of my hobby is solo. I don't get to play face to face, which is a shame, because that's 50% of the hobby. Really, it's a social thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But most of my gaming is solo. And off the back of that, I started to write rules that fitted what I wanted out of my hobby, because why not? If it's just me, I may as well embrace doing what I want to do.
Nice, that's cool, man. So you mentioned solo games, and you also mentioned that you started tinkering around with stuff because it's only you that you need to please. So what would be like maybe 2 or 3 of your favorite solo rule sets, or rule sets that you've created to play solo?
Right, so games playing. I'm a long-standing player of the 5 Parsecs, 5 Leagues games. Premodiphius days, grognard in that regard. I've also played games like Blood in Space, Blood on the Blade, which are both from War Games Vault, as well as messed around with other rule sets where you basically just play yourself as an opponent, but it takes some of the joy out of it because you always know what you're going to do.
Yeah, well, I think things being dice games help somewhat. Like I've had a few games of I've had a few games of solo things, and it's like I'm trying to beat myself, but also the dice. I always think, what is the best move that I could do for this faction right now, and then the dice kind of dictate something. But yeah, I get it. When you just against yourself, it does take a little bit, but it's better than not playing anything, right? So
it is, yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit of a story arc there. You mentioned about playing and painting, but then, circumstances change and you don't have much time to play socially, so you play on your own. So when did hobbying, when did tabletop gaming first become a thing for you, and what were your first steps into this hobby?
I would have been 12 years old. I got a knock on the door one day, and it was my next door neighbour, Damien, was moving away to university. And he knocked on the door and handed me a box that I would then discover to be a Space Crusade. Nice. At which point I opened it up, found all these models, became completely infatuated with it almost immediately. But that actually doesn't make sense, because every time we used to go shopping in Liverpool city centre, I used to insist on going to the toy soldier shop, which I now know was Games Workshop, and go in and look at the painted models. So I suddenly had models of my own, and I know I was 12 because almost immediately I went to the newsagents at the bottom of the road, bought a copy of White Dwarf, discovered I could buy even more of this stuff, and the rest is history.
Nice, that's cool, man. So let's dig around. You said you mentioned like the toy soldier shop there. Like, so is it just something that you had seen in passing, and you was like, "That looks cool, I'll go into that"? Have you been making like Airfix models or anything before, or was that literally the first experience of it?
Yeah, I did have Airfix models. My dad used to build some as well, and I always think it's quite funny that I remember my dad telling me he actually applied for the job in Games Workshop once. When it first opened. He had no idea what it was, and he wrote a cover letter saying how he likes Monopoly and Game of Life and things like this. And he, funny enough, never heard back from them. But yeah, I think he thought it was a very different kind of game shop. Yeah. But it didn't let him. What's the word? He didn't get upset about that. Yeah, he just embraced it. It wasn't for him, and he still encouraged me as a youngster to, dive into the hobby because of all the things it gives you social.
So it's like a kind of a Toy Story situation, like Andy's moving to college, not sure if you're out of Toy Story, you've got 2 young kids, so Andy's moving to college and he comes around with this box and he gave it to you, man. That's nice, that's awesome. Never popped around and said, hey, that box, you still got that box, it's worth a few quid on eBay now, is there any chance you can give me back? No, that never happened.
No, unfortunately it's long gone. I have no idea where Space Crusade is these days.
So how seriously were you playing it? Were you just kind of making noises and moving the troops around, or did you really get into the rules and start playing it properly?
I tried to get into the rules. When you look back over the rules these days, it's like I used to play Warhammer 40k 2nd edition, and you read back over the rules now and it's like, yeah, we didn't do that, we did that wrong, we skipped that section entirely. And you think, I thought I was playing the rules, but I probably was more likely playing some variation of the rules that existed in my head. Yeah,
that's cool, man. So did you start roping mates into it, or was it always just a you at home thing?
I tried to rope my mates into it. They were having none of it. So I started going to Games Workshop on, I think it was a Sunday morning. Okay. And you go in and you play games, and you play Warhammer, you play 40k, and you got to know people there. And it just so happens to have coincided with making friends with some lads in school who actually play 40k. Right. So suddenly a gaming group built up around there that we'd have a game every other weekend in somebody's garage. Yeah.
Nice, that's good, man. That's really, really good, isn't it? You just open up the garage door and it's like open onto the street, and you can just play around. That's awesome. So how serious were you taking it? Was it again just kind of like you mentioned that we didn't play that right, but we just literally, was it a case of just playing just to make the noises and just to think of the cool environment, or were you actually playing against each other, serious list building and things?
Oh, we were list building with what supplies we had at the time. It's not like we were picking specific lists out. It was like, I've got these models, I think they're cool, they're going in my army. Mm-hmm. Whether they were actually very good or not. I mean, I thought I was absolutely awesome at the game. It later turns out the Eldar that I played were massively overpowered in 2nd edition, so I wasn't as good as I thought.
No, that's not actually true, mate. Eldar are the worst faction, and you're just an amazing player. Like, everyone's got a... Did you start getting interested in any other of the game systems, or was it always just 40k and Space Crusade?
No, we were very much the new hotness would always bring us in. So then the new Warhammer launched that had the Bretonians and the Lizardmen in. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we immediately got a copy of that. Epic 40k came out. We bought Epic 40k. Everything came out, basically. Gorka Morka was another one that we definitely played, but didn't seem to get much traction. And we were there. Whatever was released by Games Workshop, we bought it. We didn't realise there was a world beyond Games Workshop at that point, though.
Nice. Well, it's a heady time, isn't it? It's a heady time. And you mentioned like kicking off at age 12, but as you kind of got to kind of like 15, 14, did you go into the world in search of work to kind of pay for this habit, or was it always just like a kind of Christmas and birthday thing?
No, I was always pretty spoilt and got what I wanted as a child. Nice. I know it's not popular to say, but I was fortunate in that regard.
Nice. That's really
if I wanted. Although I do remember one time I got taught how to paint properly, shall we say, in the Games Workshop store. So I decided to strip all my models, and the only way I could find at the time to cheaply strip models was to put them in boiling water and make the paint flake off. So one day I was going to school, said to my mum, an Eldar War Walker, I need the paint stripping off this, can you put it in a pan and boil it? And she went, yeah, that's fine. Put it in the pan to boil. Came home that evening, and I am to be presented with quite literally a lump of lead because she'd gone the shops and forgotten about it. And it definitely stripped the paint off, but it left a big lump of lead in the bottom of a now useless pan because she didn't want the whole family to get lead poisoning every time we ate. So which meant that obviously they went immediately to Games Workshop and bought me a new one. But again, I was lucky in that regard.
A lot of people talk about the amazing kind of Games Workshop experience at that time when you go into the store and see the big wall full of like blister packs and like 2 and 3 different models. So is that a really positive experience for you too?
Yeah. And I used to go back in the day as well when they did actually have sales. And I know it's a swear word these days, too. But yeah, they used to have, like, because it was the spin cast metal, they used to have mist casts, and maybe once a year they used to have a sale where they'd sell you blisters that had miscasts and stuff in. I used to love going in there then as well, and you rummage through and find what miscasts there were and chop them apart and make something new out of. Yeah, great. Yeah, used to love that.
That's cool, man. So you mentioned like a school club. Now's the time to talk about painting, because you mentioned like a lot of mates playing, you mentioned a club, you mentioned stripping stuff, you got taught to paint. So how seriously have you taken painting through your kind of hobby career?
I like to paint. I wouldn't take it seriously. I've only ever entered one painting competition, and that was Youngbloods that got the Golden Demon once upon a time. It didn't even make them finalists, never mind place. But it was fun to go in and get to look at all the other entries early and that. But yeah, it did not. I like to have well painted models, but it's not the be all and end all. They're ultimately play pieces. Yeah.
That's cool, man. So it's good that you seem to be, squeezing all you can out of the hobby. You've got the buying aspect and collecting aspect. You've got the playing aspect. You've also got the painting aspect too, which is cool. You're kind of really maximizing your hobby time. A lot of people kind of play hobby and then it drifts away as they become an adult. So is that going to happen with you, or has hobbying always been a thing?
To a degree. It went away when I was in university, but it was right around the time where Black Library books came out, so I was still reading the Black Library books. So it never truly went away. It was always in my periphery. And then it was probably once I started working, 23, 24, doing, making some reasonable money, I then started buying again. At that point, I also discovered Beasts of War on YouTube and discovered the whole wide world of games that were out there, not just Games Workshop. Yeah.
So was it always going to be Games Workshop top dog, or did other companies start catching your eye and you started maybe enjoying their prices and their games better? Yeah,
quite quickly moved off elsewhere. I became aware of Warlord games like of Bolt Action, although I've never bought Bolt Action. I always used to look at it. And things like Beyond the Gates of Antares. Used to love that game, but it never really got much traction. War Machine and Hordes along with it. There's been many games picked up and played along the way.
Were you playing with the same mates when you came back? Did you go back to the same place that you grew up in when you finished university? And were you playing with the same people, or was it a different group?
Different people. By that point, they'd all spread far and wide. So they weren't really local anymore. Again, just so happened to fall upon a couple of teammates in work. We're gamers. That nobody. I'm at this point knowing people for probably a couple of years, and they just so happened to look over my shoulder when I was on my dinner break. I saw that I was buying Frostgrave models, I believe it was at the time, and they're like, "Oh, you game!" And then suddenly you realise like two of them are next to Games Workshop staff. One of them another one plays, and it's like suddenly you've got half a team in work actually have an interest in the hobby, and it becomes a gaming group again.
That's really cool. So you're playing at like lunchtime, kind of in your work, or how are you playing?
No, it would be away from work. Because of it was a call centre job, so shifts and breaks never typically aligned with each other. Because you would have, even within the team, you'd have different breaks. So it by necessity was away from work. Yeah.
Okay. And so was it a gaming store you were playing at, or was it someone's house, someone's garage again, old school?
The houses. Yeah.
Yeah. And were you hosting? Are you always been a game host, or were you going playing somewhere else in someone else's place?
I was back in the day, but at that point it was elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Not in my house. I didn't really have the room for it.
So when you started picking up your hobby again, did you get back into everything at the same level? Did you appreciate some areas more as an adult and that you did as a kid, or was it everything just exactly the same, like seamless?
I'd say much the same, to be honest. I've always shied away from playing with unpainted miniatures, which was strange considering growing up most of my opponents didn't paint anything. They sometimes wouldn't even assemble models. You'd have like an orc boy on the table with no arms, but just putting a slaughter base. So my obsession with only playing with painted models was a bit different, but that carried on. Unless it's painted, I typically don't like to play it.
Okay, and why is that? What do you think that originates from, and why are you so passionate about it?
I don't know. It's annoying at times, to be honest. But, you have a box that's sat there completely unused just because I've not had time to get paint on it. But I don't know. I think it's just a quirk of mine.
Yeah, I kind of made peace with it by saying progressively painted. So I can kind of get out and I can play with it as long as some of it's painted. And it's like every time you see me, it'll be a little bit more painted. So that's kind of softened a blow for me, because I was the same as you. It's like things that I really wanted to play, but I just couldn't play them because it wasn't painted.
Yeah.
Nice, that's cool. So you mentioned picking it up kind of age 23, 24, playing with people who you were working with. You mentioned a few other games. You mentioned Frostgrave there. So Beasts of War, you mentioned as like kind of a big kind of factor and a set of people in terms of bringing new things to your attention.
Very much.
Just the hobby's gone from strength to strength. The hobby's going to continue to grow. It's never you never felt jaded and kind of slid away from it. You've always been really prevalent in your life.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I do that one thing that people always say not to do in the hobby, which is sell your stuff. Okay. I've had a massive page of games, models a number of times, which means like the actual space that stuff takes up is kept quite small, but it's I was very much a hobby magpie at one point, where something new and shiny, that's what I wanted.
I think we all go through that though. I think it's a natural thing, isn't it? You're very disciplined, or you're starting out the games, and especially when you're younger, maybe I don't have that kind of huge amount of money, and then you kind of realize that you can treat yourself to all this stuff as an adult, but it does get to the point where you're like, how much more is actually feasible and realistic and required?
Yeah.
So how did you begin to trim stuff? What were your criteria for kind of keeping certain things or getting rid of others?
Basically, did I play it or not as well? And it actually goes back into your back catalogue. You did have a couple of episodes where you talked about gaming minimalism.
Yeah.
And that really struck a chord with me at that point. It's like, actually, yeah, this makes sense, rather than buying up everything that you don't use, focusing on what you do want, what you do bother with, what really interests you, and just stick with it.
Yeah, it's what you...
And I really embrace it.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I really embraced that and took that forward with me with hobbying. So yourself is to thank somewhat for that particular mindset.
For all the people that picked up amazing hot deals on the stuff that you were getting rid of.
Yeah, probably.
They thank you. Yeah, that's really important to me. It's something that's... Because I'm probably the same as you. There's a famous picture that I took, famous in my own mind, that is not to anybody else. But there's a picture that I have on my laptop that I keep and I drag out from time to time, and it was my hobby area and storage area before I decided to hobby more sustainably, and I just kind of picked up a whole bunch of games, and it was literally that case of sitting there and going, when am I ever going to actually play this? And even if I played it, how many people in the local area can I find to play, and how likely is it that game's going to stick? And it was just from that point that I tried to really crush stuff down, and to game more sustainably. And again, you work out there's only 52 weeks in a year, and even if you play every week, you call off a couple of games for holidays, call off a couple of games for sickness, you're probably down to about 45, I would say. So you got only 45 gaming days in any 1 year, and even that would be a lot. That's gaming most weeks. I don't think a lot of people do that, and it's like the more people I spoke to and speak to, and it's like, how often do you game? Once a month, once a quarter, once every 8 weeks, once every kind of 6 weeks. So you've only really got realistically 30 games maybe a year, and it's like that's maybe 3 games, that's 10 of each game per year. That's still not a lot to really get to know intimately the games that we have, right? So what was
not at all.
Yeah, what was the first ones that went by the wayside? We'll call out as a little like a roll call,
Let's see, it would be, War Machine went pretty quick because I couldn't find anywhere to play that. There was Warhammer Quest somewhat stupidly sold. The original Warhammer Quest, which I'm disappointed in myself for, because I had literally every expansion for it as well.
Right.
And I used to love playing that game. And now it's more a case of like, the kids probably would have played that with me.
Yeah.
Which is more so than I lament the loss of the actual thing. It's just the possibility of having introduced my kids to it that I lament more so, but yeah, there was countless Beyond the Games Gates of Antares again, just couldn't find anyone to play. I had loads of 15mm stuff that there was nobody else that collected 15mm stuff, so that all went. Huge amounts when I think about it. Huge amounts.
What was
all the 40k stuff?
Yeah, what was a non-negotiable? What's never leaving the collection now?
There wasn't.
No? Anything's up for grab? Anything's there? Okay.
It was literally at one point all I was left with was a single box of Frostgrave soldiers on sprue. That was all I had in my... I really purged. I went deep with it. I just thought, start again.
Yeah.
Focus on Frostgrave, play Frostgrave.
Okay, so when you did start again, like what did you learn from that kind of season of abundance and then season of kind of shedding? Like what did you learn and how did you take that into the kind of rebirth?
Well, to start with, how much stuff I didn't even know I had. I was literally at one point selling stuff that I don't even remember buying.
Is this yours? Your mates just started to keep hold of it for a few weeks and you just sold it. I didn't know I had that. Sold it.
It probably happened. But yeah, no, and then it was things like how many red paint do I truly need? When you've got 4 different brands of very similar red paints, maybe I can just keep one paint collection and get rid of the rest. Just things like that. It's like you start duplicating up, particularly playing mini agnostic games as well. You suddenly realise like models can pull duty elsewhere. They don't just have to be for this game system. You can use it. An orc's an orc. It doesn't matter what game system.
I think that popped up in the sustainable gaming kind of trilogy that we did as well, is that gaming a genre as opposed to gaming a specific individual rule set was something that was quite important to me to learn, where it's like I started to build up a post-apocalyptic group of survivors and zombies and then also terrain, and I've probably got 5 to 7 different individual rule sets I can play with just that same stuff, and that's quite liberating, isn't it? Where I don't ever really think that I want to be super competitive tournament guy anyway. In certain tournaments you have to be specific bases and all kind of specific same company miniatures, so opening it up into that agnostic world is something that's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, definitely so, and it's something I've massively embraced since.
So let's talk a little bit more about what you delved into. So you mentioned keeping Frostgrave. That's awesome. So you kept that. Is that a game that you played a lot or just a game that you painted a lot for?
I painted a lot for. I think I probably played 4 or 5 games of that before the work gaming group then split up, because again, people jobs elsewhere, moved elsewhere in the country and whatnot. So that game group, as I'm sure most gamers can relate to, eventually they fall apart as life takes over. At that point, I then started very much looking into solo games. And one of the Frostgrave was brilliant for it because, particularly at that point, I also found 5 Leagues from the Borderlands and 5 Parsecs from Home. And the North Star miniatures were great for that because you could mix them in and use them as lots of different things. Is
that something that's fairly recent then? Was the Purge fairly recent?
I would say about 5 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, that's
so fairly recent.
Nice.
If not, actually, it might be a bit further. No, it will have been earlier. It was before my daughter was born. She's 7, So yeah.
Okay, so quite often when we start families, that's when hobby time starts getting crunched down. But that's something that you did even before that. Nice. So is there anything that you would, as we kind of begin to talk more about solo games and games that you've been playing recently, is there any kind of advice or recommendations you'd give to somebody who's maybe listening to this and looking around and thinking, crikey, I have actually got a whole bunch of extra stuff here that I don't really need. What would you kind of recommend in terms of how you begin to sift through it and where were you selling it, who were you selling it to, and have you got any advice?
I was selling it on eBay mainly, and I was basically looking at it. Did I play this game or use these models within the past 12 months? If it was no, it went. Right. I just had to become completely dispassionate. Don't think, well, I might play this game. If there's a blue moon in Japan on the 4th of July, somebody might want to play this game. No, it just went.
Okay.
Be dispassionate.
eBay. Yeah. Don't be emotional. Just think, have I played it in the last year? Sell it on eBay. And did you make any money off stuff? Were you losing money, or did you end up selling something that was in hot demand?
If you look at purely financial, I will have massively lost money.
Yeah.
But the way I looked at it is I'd had my fun with them. Yeah. So at that point, it was anything that I got was a gain.
Yeah.
Because I'd already used that. So rather than saying, "Oh, well, that's the RLP of this," it's something that was basically sitting unused on a shelf. So any money was better than no money.
I think it's a mature way. It's a mature way of looking at it, because I've done that myself, where I'm not used this for ages, but I don't want to take 50% of it. I'll try and wait for a time when it's potentially worth more, but probably never will. Probably never is, because there's an endless conveyor belt of new games and new miniatures and resculpts coming out. And I felt the benefit of it a few months ago. I sold a whole bunch of Star Wars Legion stuff because I'd heard that they were changing over Star Wars Legion, coming out with a new edition, and they were a big shake up with the game, and there was rumored new sculpts and things like that. So I kind of put my stuff up for sale, and it was all painted, and I actually ended up getting all my money back, if not a little bit more than I bought it. Yeah, and then the new edition kind of dropped, and I kind of felt a little bit bad because for the guy, because he never said anything, but it's like I know that he plays locally, and I know that we as a second-hand group that we're part of, and he was asking for, has anyone got any new sculpts to the stormtroopers? And I'm like, on one side of me, he's like, that means he's bought my stormtroopers, and he's looking for new ones already. But that's his choice, right? If he wants.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're playing a game, you must know. You must look at news. You must know what's coming. If you knew, he must know. So I wouldn't feel guilty about that.
But part of me did. Part of me was like, oh no. It's a little bit like pass the parcel. You play at a kid's party. It's like you can see the adult reaching for the pause button, and you keep all of that package for a little bit longer. Yeah. But that's cool, man. So there you go, man. That's cool. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, you're not living under a rock, nor is he. He would all know the news. No need to feel guilty about that.
Thanks, mate. You set my mind at ease now. So you mentioned solo games. You mentioned 5 parsecs from home. You mentioned 5 leagues from the borderlands. You mentioned Frostgrave. So is there any other kind of solo games you want to give a shout out?
So Blood in Space and Blood on the Blade were 2 other games that I did play. And then largely I never know how to pronounce it. There's a solo gaming system, which is like a card-based system that you can get on Wargame default. It's when you look at it, it's like AI, but it's intrusive. I can never remember the pronunciation of it off the top of my head, but it's a really good one. It basically, you map the board out into a grid of 3 squares across, 3 squares deep, map the terrain out, and then the AI system, you give point values to the various types of terrain, and it will decide whether it wants to attack from the left flank based on the terrain setup, the right flank, keep force in reserve, and then it sets them up and gives you overriding tactics for the force. That's a really good one as well. A Jubant Introduval, It's by a guy called Nick Britt, but really good system.
Yeah.
And also the Solo Wargaming Guide by William Sylvester, really good as well for campaign level stuff for solo wargaming.
Nice.
Which is something I've really leaned into as well. Yeah.
Nice. So how many games per month, per year, per week are you looking to get? Because solo games obviously is easier to kind of set up, but are you finding that you're gaming a lot? Would you like to game more?
I would like to game more. I maybe get in 1 or 2 a month if I'm lucky.
Okay.
It's still don't find that much time for it, but it's a lot easier to schedule time when it's just me that I've got to schedule for, not an opponent. Yeah.
That's cool, man. And so, gaming predominantly mini agnostic games now, or is there any kind of more fleshed out games that you still play?
No, almost entirely mini agnostic, although the new Conflict 47 has caught my eye, although it would be the same old finding an opponent and scheduling time to play is possibly the one thing that would put me off it.
Yeah. So do you think the gaming stores that exist in your local area, are you aware of gaming stores? Do you go to the same one, or is it just all buying online?
No, I tend to go in store where I can. If they stock stuff, I will go in store. If they don't stock the ranges I want, it will by necessity be buying online. But yeah, there's 2 stores really. Newton Dice in St Helens, which is 15-minute drive from where I live. And then if I'm ever over in the Wirral, I discovered a new store yesterday called Bulwark Games, which is really well stocked as well. I was driving past and wanted something, so I popped in there. And so yeah, look, 2 stores really that I would regularly go to. I imagine I'll be back in that one.
What about like kind of online communities? Because you mentioned that you listened to the podcast for a while. So are you are you a member of any online communities or online groups?
Well, your own Discord, of course. And I do dip in and out of the Nordic Weasel Games Discord as well.
Yeah.
Other than that, not really. Not these days.
Okay. Is it something that you would like to get more of, or do you get all your hobby sustenance from just painting and playing solo games?
Yeah, and living life through other people's games. Whether it's battle reports that people post. I don't necessarily watch battle reports because they can be quite long. Yeah. But yeah, it's and through YouTube as well. Quite a lot taken on YouTube, even if it's just on the background. Yeah. It gives you your hobby fix, so to speak.
Have you got any channels that you'd like to give a shout out? Ones that you appreciate, ones that you like?
Well, Peachy Tips. I do find Peachy to be quite amusing at times. There is... You put me on the spot here and I can't think of them.
It's going to be a whole bunch of offended people.
Oh, he's a regular listener to my channel. He didn't call me out.
And he didn't say anything. But then I do listen to quite a few podcasts as well. I mean, one you're well aware of, Bedroom Battlefields, for example. But while I'm working in the car, if I don't have customers at the time, I will throw a podcast on. It's how I listen to most of your podcasts, in fact, between jobs. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Have you ever accidentally kept one on, like Bedrooms, Battlefields, or anything like that, and someone sat in and gone, "Oh, you listen to that? I listen to that too." That ever happened? No, I guess not.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. There you go, mate. Positive growth mindset. Not yet.
Absolutely.
So you also talked about at the start of the show. Seems a long time ago now, but you talked about how you started to adapt rule sets to your own needs and your own kind of ideas. So how did that first start happening?
That basically came about because I had an idea for a setting that I couldn't find a game for, and thought, just adapt another game to the setting. At first it was quite superficial, changing the names of weapons to another weapon, and I thought, I don't quite like how that works. I would prefer to do it this way. I like movement templates because particular gaming, like if the kids are in bed pulling tape measure out and the thing clinks and suddenly you have to stop because you're going upstairs because it's woke one of the kids up. So I like templates because they don't make a noise, and so I adapted. I added templates in, And then it's like, do you know what? This is using D6s. I'd prefer to spread the results of D10 would give. Adapt the game to D10s, and before you know it, you've made so many incremental changes, it's unrecognisable from the original source. And that was the first one. And then after that, it's like, I wonder if I could make this work. Make it work on. So, for example, Sword Weirdos and Space Weirdos has got the progression of the dice where you add a die type or take it away. And I quite like that. So I adapted it into basically a rank and flank game using it, where if your troops they had let's see, trying to explain this. So I liked Dragon Rampant, the way you had like troop qualities and stuff, and if you go far enough back Stargrunt, I don't know if you ever encountered Stargrunt, you'd have troop qualities, and I tied troop quality to a die type, and then as they take morale damage, the die type drops to represent stress and fatigue on the battlefield. They become less effective. And I started doing things like that and just playing around with systems, and before you know it, you've got a game.
Nice, that's cool. So how scientific was that approach? You mentioned about changing the dice to a D10. Was it just a case of what felt good, what you'd experienced in other games, or were you really starting to do the crunching and saying like, what does a D10 offer that a D6 doesn't?
A little bit of both. So for example, the D10, I knew that I would have a broader range of possible results. I can stretch stats out if I give it a wider die type, a bit more granular. Other times it's just, it feels right. I like the way that works, like a blind draw system from a bag, like in Mortal Gods or Beyond the Gate of Antares, where you draw it out and you find out who gets to play and things like that. I would also incorporate things that I just liked in games. I like the way that game does that. Let's pull that system in, although I might adapt it a little bit.
Yeah. And so you mentioned it's two rule sets, right? You've done one, and now you're messing around with another one. So what was the name of that first one? What was the name of the first?
The first one was called Locust, which is like not post-apocalyptic, but what I refer to as post-purpose. Basically, an AI has tried to optimize the world, optimized it to the point it then starts optimizing itself, and it breaks up and it shatters into different personalities that don't recognize each other. And cults, basically your tech bros start worshipping them as gods. And it's the fight between rival cults who are trying to get data from other places to give to their god, and they're fighting over the scraps of the world that has basically just become server farms and dust as far as the world can see.
Nice, it's a very cheery game, mate. So,
it's wonderful and positive,
So what different factions might we encounter or choose to be?
Basically, it was totally randomized because it was coming from a solo perspective. I built it so that you design your starting cult, but you'd have a limit on what you could actually access. And then from there, it was designed as a campaign system as well. As the campaign would progress, you would be offered gifts by what was like your god, your fractured part of the Locust AI, and they would give you access to various weapons, but you roll on a table and see what you were able to get. That was one thing that I did look at it scientifically. So the most common weapons, because you'd roll 2 dice to decide what you would get, and based on that spread the scores. The extreme scores were the particularly good weapons. The more common weapons were in the middle to follow the bell curve. So I did actually look at that one scientifically. So everyone wasn't, walking around with some sort of god killer weapon. It was just a case of you'd probably get a knife, and then you could choose to buy it or not using your devotion. And if you did, your devotion points went down a little bit, but you got access to a shiny new weapon.
Okay, that's cool, man. And so you mentioned campaign based. So talk us through the campaign and how a campaign would work and evolve.
So with that one, the campaign was basically become more and more powerful. There was no end game in sight. It was just a case of what shiny new toys can you get by playing through the campaign, and what weird and wonderful monstrosities do your characters turn into. Because as they would get access to things, they'd also get like cybernetic graphs put on them, which if they got too many, they became unstable because they start to fracture like the code of the original AI, and their devotion would drop if you get too many graphs to mimic that original fraction of the, that bright cheery AI we were discussing. Yeah.
Nice. That's interesting, mate. And so what was the thought of, or the inspiration for this world? 'Cause it seems to be like, you're going deep into it and you use a lot of thought. So is this world real in your mind, or you just only got little bits and pieces?
I suppose as real as anybody who makes any kind of setting it is. Yeah. But no, the original thought was I worked corporate jobs prior to what I do now, and they always looked at everything as make it more and more efficient.
Yeah.
And it actually started as a thought process of, if a corporation got a general AI, what would they use it for to make everything more efficient? And it was just, the idea of it was, what would happen if AI became recursive design, making everything more and more efficient, and it suddenly the whole world was as efficient as and catalogued and everything was before it. What would it do next if that was its purpose? It would start looking at its own architecture and try and make it more and more efficient, to the point it would fracture it, because it would break something eventually, and it would break itself. Nice. And yeah, it just started as a thought process that took me, probably because it's been inspired by reading grimdark books in terms of 40k, Warhammer and other stuff. It's very easy to meander down a dark path if you choose to.
Yeah, that's true, mate. It's cool how our brains work, because we kind of take in information from lots of different movies and books and video games and all sorts of different things, and we kind of are able to kind of tinker around with different aspects that we like and come up with our own spin on things. That's really cool. So you mentioned it very much a solo game. So how would like a scenario be chosen, a battlefield chosen, terrain chosen, and how would give me some examples of scenarios maybe?
It might be gather a relic, it might be just beat the other warband, it just roll on the table and play whatever came out. With that one, that was the first game I developed, and that was very much a case of just play both sides. But you would be randomly rolling for what happens to the cults, so they develop their own personalities, but you'd still play both sides of the table. Okay. Terrain would just be what looks good.
Okay.
However, the second game, which I purposely started developing as a game, making it, which I've given the grandiose title of Banners of War to, that is like kind of a rank and flank, and that one I very much, from the outset, was working it as a solo system, although there's nothing to say people couldn't play it without it, because I use pre-existing solo mechanics from elsewhere to drive the solo part of it. So that one was quite different in terms of compared to Locust, and I'm still working on that, refining it as I go at the moment.
It's interesting that you mentioned the solo aspect of a rank and flank game. That's not something that tends to pop up too many times. Rank and flank games tend to be predominantly, you need a human adversary, right?
Yeah, very much. It's something that I did look at. So with it, I do things like a commander will have a preset command range, and whilst you can activate units out of the command range, what you have to do is roll on a table to determine what they do. You have to interpret it somewhat, but it might be like cower in place. They just stay where they are and don't do anything, because the boss is over there, he can't see what we're doing, so we're not going to fight. Why put ourselves at risk?
Definitely me. If I was in a war, that's what I'd be doing, cowering in place. Nice, man.
But again, this one there goes back to the data. So on the AI tables, the lower results, so like a 1 will be run away, 2 cower in place, whereas if you go right up to the top of the table on a 12, that will be take take the turn as though they were in command range, and then it might be charge the closest unit, or so. I've got different tables depending on which troop type, but because you're working up from D4, D6, D8, D10 to D12, the best results you can only get by being the best type of troop rolling a D12.
Yeah,
you can't get them good score. The lower the quality of the troop type, the more they're going to act for self-preservation rather than with any tactical awareness. So it does come out of your control, and that is even your own forces, and you'll do that with the other forces. But the AI system that I said before about the card-driven one, I use that for the opponent.
Okay.
So that's commanding the opponent side, as well as the fog of war effect of I use a blind bag draw to determine who moves when. So there's no perfect, I can't preempt the opponent's plan because that's been driven by an AI system that I have no control over, and it's not me go, I go, you go. So I don't even know what the turn order is going to be, so it throws some chaos into it.
Yeah. Is it something you're doing just for you, or have you kind of, you want to see how far this rabbit hole might go?
I would be interested to see how far it goes, because to be fair, I think it's a reasonably solid rule set. It's not just rank; it's very much a fantasy rank and flank as well. As part of it, you've got blood mages who will summon demons or undead, but in order to do that, they will. If you want to summon a demon, for example, it will cost you some of your wounds on the unit, as well as push you down the die type. So the more demons you summon, the harder it is to summon more demons. So for example, if you start using a D8 and you summon the demon, all future rolls for everything then start getting rolled a D6, so it's harder for you to achieve things. And then if you take morale hits, it'll drop down further as well, and you could end up, you've got your elite unit rolling on a D4 trying to complete actions, and the game has a universal target of a 4+ as a success.
Right.
And on the higher dice types, it's easier to achieve that. So yes, you'll summon a demon, but you might not be able to do it again. And then demons can also go out of your control and actually come back and attack your own troops.
That's cool.
So it's again quite a dark setting once again.
Yeah. But it's interesting. It's interesting. So when are you doing this? Is it in a downtime between lunch break and things like that in your own work, or is it something you do as a hobby in your spare time?
Well, I don't know if I did. Currently I work as a taxi driver here in Liverpool. So basically between fares, I've got a notebook next to me. I will jot away in the notebook. I'll print a copy of the rules out. I'll read it over, cross stuff out, write updated versions of the rules. Actually, that's not working. And I even, you have to, the utter nerd in me, I have literally some dice in the bag and in a bag in the glove box. And I might just literally use pieces of paper to play a game on the seat next to me.
That's cool.
If I get space between jobs, and I just play it out that way. It's not necessarily models, but I will be moving units around. So they say play testing and networking is something that's important. So have you started those wheels spin? I know that you've done that on the Paint All the Minis Discord a little bit, asking people to get involved. Have you done it in other places too? No, that's it really. I've shared it on the Discord. I've not really pushed it elsewhere, although I did. I was feeling brave yesterday and registered bannersofwar.co.uk to throw the rules up there to possibly get them to a wider audience, because I do think they work well, and even if it's just a couple of people start throwing some dice playing the game, it's I've done the work. Maybe somebody else can get some joy out of it. Yeah,
that's really cool, man. So there's two different flavors you can pick from. You've got kind of like a post-apocalyptic solo skirmish game, and then you've got like a kind of fantasy rank and flank game, right?
Yeah, but either of them could be played multiplayer very easily. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So is there anything that we haven't talked about with either of those two games that you'd like to talk about before we move on?
Not particularly. No, it would just be a case of, if people did take any interest, jump over on Discord and tell me what went horrifically wrong and why, so I can address the issues.
That's cool.
No, seriously, no, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good that you've got that as like a little. That's why I like our hobby so much. Is that there's so many different hobbies within hobbies that you can have. Some people talk about sculpting and they get green stuff and they start sculpting extra bits. Some people get into photography and they start doing really cool photos of minis. Some people get into 3D printing and start 3D printing, and other people get into like rules adaptation and rules writing, which you've done, which is why the hobby's so amazing. It's so deep and diverse, right?
Absolutely, and without every single factor of them, the hobby won't be what it is. Different people bring different skills. If people weren't interested in painting, my painting wouldn't be as good because I wouldn't follow tutorials on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Likewise, if people didn't dabble in games, we wouldn't all have games to play. So yeah, I love that aspect of it myself. Yeah.
Nice. So since you've started changing rules and writing rules, has it taken away all your time from other rule sets, or do you still find your time to play yourself into other games?
I take most of my time up, if I'm perfectly honest. It's because I'll always be tinkering with the rules and thinking, what else can I do? So I'd be interested in seeing what that does, rather than going to a different rule set. Yeah. Not to say I don't. I imagine if I was gaming more socially, I would definitely be playing other games.
Yeah.
But because I'm not, it's like I'll inevitably delve into my own system.
It's like you've reached the Zen state, or the kind of the dangerous point for your AI, isn't it? You're optimizing your entire hobby. You had this whole bunch of games and you sold those, and then you had all these paints and you sold those. It's like if you start making your own paint at home and like plucking your eyebrow hair to make your own paintbrushes, you'll be completely sustainable and optimized, mate.
Oh no, Dan, have become locust.
You're going to splinter off into lots of different bits then.
I'll be schizophrenic before you know it.
So do you see a time in the future where you might start to hobby and play more socially, or do you think solo is the way for you these days?
I think it will come back. It's just time constraints. It's ultimately it comes down to I could go out and spend an afternoon in a hobby store, or I could go out and go ramble around the woods with the kids. Yeah, it will always be the kids. Once they get old enough to not really care about going out and spending the afternoon with mum and dad, I will probably start delving back into the more social aspect of it.
Yeah, the only way, I mention this quite a lot, but the only way that I can get, or feel I can get away with it, it's not because my wife gives me any grief or anything like that, but the only way that I can kind of justify playing socially is that by starting really early on Saturday morning. So I'll be setting up the table from about 7:15 a.m. and I'll make sure I call the game at 11:30 at the latest. So it still feels like I've got the rest of my Saturday to do family stuff, right? So
yeah, that makes sense, actually. That makes a lot of sense.
It just means the cast of people you can play against is really small, because it's like, what? I'm going to come round to your house at 7:15 in the morning? What are you on about? I remember trying to do it with one fella once, and he was like, 7:15 p.m.'s fine. I was like, no, a.m. He was like, a.m.? No chance, mate. So yeah, you have to kind of, you have to have someone that's very, very flexible or in the same position as you, man. But yeah, so as we kind of begin to round out our chat, is there any games that have kind of popped up that you've had to really work hard not to get involved in, because you kind of got off the wagon by getting rid of all your stuff and creating your own rule sets? But is there any games that kind of come around? You mentioned Conflict 47's kind of renaissance is exciting for you. Is there anything else?
I mean, I've gone to delve into 40k again many times, as well as Age of Sigmar. The Baron's War. I nearly clicked on the mouse and ordered it, but didn't quite. I managed to resist. Nice. There's lots that come along that I very much am tempted by. But yeah, it always comes down to I'll think, just when am I going to get to play this?
Yeah.
That'll bring.
Yeah, are you that disciplined in your whole life, or is it only gaming that you're that disciplined? It's like
no. The fact that you use the word discipline with me is quite remarkable, to be honest. No, disciplined and responsible are not words that most people would associate me with.
I don't know, man. You talk about prioritising your family, and you're not playing socially because you want to prioritise time, because that's pretty disciplined, mate. It'd be very easy to kind of look after yourself too much.
I suppose so. Maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit.
Nice. So, as we begin to round out our conversation, is there more games in your head? Is there more genres? Is there more styles of game, or or you just kind of seeing what happens?
Almost inevitably. No doubt I will start tinkering elsewhere, somewhere along the lines. As of what it is, who knows? But there will no doubt be something come along somewhere when some models take me fancy and I want to play a game with it. Yeah.
Nice. So if people have listened to the ideas that you got for your games and they're excited and interested to know more, or maybe even interested in doing some play testing and give some feedback, like where can we go to find your games? How can we get in contact with you? What are our next steps?
Right now, they exist solely on my Google Drive, which you can, I'll plug for you here, Dan. Pop it over onto the Paint All the Minis Discord, and the links to them are on there. Banners of War, let's say I've got a website that I need to build, and I'm going to pop them on there as well, but that's probably a few weeks away at the minimum at the moment.
Nice. Yeah. Well, it's been great. It's been great to talk to you, mate. It's been fantastic just to hear your hobby story, and it's been really good to kind of hear how passionate and enthusiastic you are about just tinkering with rule sets, and all the very best with it, whether it goes as print and play on Drive-Thru RPG, or whether it gets picked up by a company or something. I wish you the very best with it, mate, and I hope your journey continues for a long time, and I hope you continue to enjoy it.
Thank you very much. To be honest, I'd appreciate if people just pick it up for free and play it even. That would be a success for me.
Yeah, it's amazing just to have that little bit of a community where you kind of shout into the void and someone calls back. It's always really great. I always do that with a podcast. It's like, if I've enjoyed it and you've enjoyed it and one other person enjoys it, then it's definitely served its purpose. So it's great to hear that you're doing the same thing with your rules, right, mate?
Fantastic.
But anyway, take it easy, and I'm sure we'll speak to you in about 3 years' time when it's been picked up by Modifius and it's got a super smashing, amazing bumper edition rule set that's 70 quid that we can all pick up.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? That'd be something else, wouldn't it?
All right, mate. Well, take it easy. Speak to you again soon.
All right. You too. Cheers, Dan.
So there you go, episode 267, all wrapped up there. Thank you to Peter for coming on to the show. It was a pleasure talking to you, Peter, and if you're still listening to the post-Ramble, we appreciate it. And apologies, Peter, directly to you for the mistakes in the pre-Ramble and the mistakes that are probably going to be around in the post-Ramble. I'm just sick. I'm not very well, and I'm tired. And I thought about, do I not do today? Do I not release it? I've been hanging around all week, hoping to find time and hoping to not be sick and stuff. But I am sorry. I'm sick. I'm sick and tired. I literally am sick and tired this week. So hopefully you enjoyed the show, everybody, and Peter too. And hopefully you didn't mind the pre and post ramble. But it's something I think I mentioned it a while ago in episode 250. In a kind of celebratory type episode. It is what it is. On any one given day, this is the show, and it's important to put across how we feel and how we are on those given days. So yeah. I'm not very well. I've not been very well for a while, a couple of weeks, just fighting off some stuff. And also, I'm just really tired. I've been doing a whole bunch of stuff. I've been working many weekends and different things like that. And you know that I was away in Korea last week, which was really, really good, but it's just really, really tired too. So, send thoughts and prayers, and it might be okay. But anyway, so awesome guest Peter. Thank you for coming on. It was really good talking to you. It was really good talking to Peter about his agnostic games and how he kind of noticed that he had too much stuff and then kind of shed some of that stuff, and he's now hobbying with a lot more discipline. That's really, really good. Hobby stuff for me, what's been going on? Not really painting so much, again, because I mentioned why. Got a little bit in over the last kind of couple of days, just kind of trying to do some easy, simple stuff. Painted some belts, painted some leather straps, painted some boots and gloves and things like that. Just stuff that's not really a big deal, but really struggled to kind of just focus for more than kind of 40 minutes really. So I might have another little go later, just try and get some more of those kind of basic things, pouches and little leather containers and bags and stuff like that. I might get that done a little bit later. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's not really much to talk about in terms of me stuff hobby wise. There's a couple of things that have been on my radar over the last few weeks, really, in terms of games. There was a StarCraft game. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the StarCraft game. I don't think I'm going to get involved in that because I like StarCraft, but I didn't really love it so much. And I looked at the models, and the models looked really good. If you like StarCraft, I guess there's like a fair and accurate representation of the units within StarCraft, but it's not really for me. But if you're into that sort of thing, check it out if you haven't heard about it already, or like have at it if you're super into StarCraft. Another thing that's been really interesting me is the Star Wars version of it's a Command and Colors game, which is like Memoir 44, that probably people will know that the most. So it's like a Star Wars version of Memoir 44. That's been on my radar, and that looks pretty cool. I don't think I need another Memoir 44 / Command and Colors game in my life. But that if someone was kicking around in my life that had that and they said I want a game, I'd be saying yeah. I'm not sure if there's a tabletop simulator mod for it, but that'd be really cool. But it does make me feel a little bit uneasy if I'm playing tabletop simulator mods and we haven't bought them. Either one of us or both of us don't have that game. It kind of makes me feel a little bit bad, because if everyone plays games on tabletop simulator and no one buys the games, then the games won't exist, right? Because the games writers will starve to death because they can't have any beans on toast with the money that we give them for their games. And it's always important to remember that games writers don't get a whole lot. 10%. If games writers get 10% of the profit, not even the sales, if games writers get 10% of the profit of every one they sell, that's a lot. That's considered a lot in the industry. So it's another little bit of an incentive, another little bit of a kind of reason, in my opinion, that it's important to support games. And I didn't know that cheap copies were rife too. Like, someone was talking to me a while ago about how hard it was to get hold of Heat. So Heat seems like a really cool kind of race car game. But I was talking about, this is a while ago now, I think they've done another printing of it, and I think it's in it's much more, many more copies in the system. But he was saying that a lot of people get fake games, so you got like fake copies. I didn't even know that was a thing. So, have you got many fake games? Are you aware of this kind of black market fake games? Also over here, there's a whole bunch of recasters, right? And I didn't know about that. So people get a lot. I did know about that. There's a lot of people that get GW recast stuff, and I'm not really too fussed about recast. I got one recast guy a while ago because I couldn't find it anywhere. GW, I couldn't find it any GW store, and the only place that I could find it, official one, was through scalpers that I'd buy. It was like a special edition Khorne Terminator guy. It was like, he's off one of the Red Dwarf. There you go. See apologies for mistakes in previous minutes of this conversation. There was a White Dwarf cover with like a Khorne Terminator on, and I really wanted to paint it, and I didn't really want to pay what GW was charging if I bought it at GW. It was like 25 quid for like one guy, but I couldn't find it anywhere, and then I found it online and it was like 50 quid, and I was like, you know what, no. So I got to recast one of them, and I painted it, and I gave it to a friend, and yes, I did tell the friend that it was recast, but he really liked Khorne stuff, and like, he'd been really nice and kind of helped me out with a few different things, so I kind of passed it on to a friend, and I don't know if he still has it. I don't know if he just went threw it away because it was dirty recast. I don't know if he did that, but I thought it was a nice gesture. So yeah, fake stuff, that might be a good idea of an episode to talk about. So if you're still listening, you're still hanging around, and you're aware of this whole fake world, that'd be an interesting conversation. I think recast GW and different bits and bobs. But anyway, I think that is the end of the post ramble. I'm off to have like a bath for about 4 hours and read James Bond. I'm reading Thunderball. I managed to find some books that I'm motivated to read. A while ago I mentioned that I was struggling to find books that were really holding my attention. I'm kind of struggling with it, and it's not the book's fault, it's probably all me. But I kind of was picking up a few books that were well reviewed on my Goodreads and different bits, and kind of connected with other books that I'd read according to Goodreads and are on the list, but they just didn't click with me. So I've been kind of bouncing around a few different books and kind of looking at my wish list, and whichever one was like on sale at 99p, I kind of picked up. And then all the James Bond books were on sale for 99p, so I picked up all the James Bond books that I hadn't read. I think there's about 5 of them that I hadn't got around to yet. And Thunderball, I'm reading Thunderball, which is pretty good. It's holding my attention. Thunderball's the one where one of the British jets gets stolen mid-flight and kind of ditched in the sea with a couple of nuclear weapons, and then Spectre are doing naughty and nasty things, trying to bribe people to get some money out of governments for these nuclear weapons, which is pretty good. So that's something that I recommend. But if you've got a book that you want to recommend, fire it across, because after I've finished the Bond books, they're not too long. The Bond books. This one's longer than previous ones, actually. I think. I'm not sure. I haven't checked the page counts at all of Fleming's work, but this Thunderball book seems to be longer than a good few of the other ones. But I hope you're okay. I hope you're good. Hope you're keeping things on an even keel. If you're kind of feeling it this time of the year, now's the sort of time of year that I always start thinking about people's mental health, as we move towards Christmas and things like that. If you've got a change in your family circumstances, you maybe used to be married, or you used to be part of a family unit and you're not part of that family unit for any reason. Maybe kind of parents passed on, or certain familial situations, you separated from partners and things like that, or kids moved away. Now is an important time for lots of people. They say that Christmas is a time of spending time with your family and peace and goodwill and all that kind of stuff, but that's not necessarily always true for all of us. So over the next kind of 4 weeks, make sure you're checking in with your friends, and make sure you're checking in with your groups, and don't let people be alone. It's really important that we use Christmas and we use these times as an opportunity to kind of come together. So if someone's on their own, you don't necessarily need to invite them around at 5 a.m. on Christmas morning to observe you opening your new socks and your and your new Cuban cigars. But just don't let people be alone. Even just a cup of tea in an afternoon. You don't need to go out and spend a whole bunch of money. You can go around to theirs for a cup of tea. You can get them around yours for a cup of tea and a biscuit or something like that. It's just really important, because life is lonely at the best of times for a lot of us, and especially around Christmas time, when you're supposed to be spending that with special people, especially if their circumstances have changed for whatever reason over the last few years. Maybe they've been made redundant from a job, or whatever it is, the stuff that I mentioned. Check in with you guys, check in with your group, check in with your squad. And if you're listening to this and you're one of those people, that's had a kick in the nuts or a blow in some way, just know that both myself and the Paint All the Minis community are thinking about you, and you can connect with us on the Discord server. And don't be alone, man. Life's hard enough anyway without making it harder for yourself. So check in, get checked in on, and until next time we're together, keep painting.